Shabbat Shalom, open arm.
Shabbat Shalom.
Giving the Most High His honor and just due. Praying that everyone was able to nourish themselves. I know I did. I was on E, and I'm very thankful for the Most High for food. Hallelujah. So we for the evening session, I want to bring up a good brother, the Moray, at DCB in Brooklyn, New York, formerly of Shema, and now at DCB. A lot of you all are YouTubers, and I actually have their channel. So I know you're very familiar with the face. The face is in the place. I thank the Most High once again for allowing them to make it here in safety. And I'm not going to drag it out because he has enough time to take us out. Down in Shabbat. So
somebody famous in here.
So without further ado, I'm going to introduce my friend, even Moray Yeftahk Ben Dan.
Please be seated. Continuous praise to the Most High God, King of heaven and earth. Even the God of our forefathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Yeftahk, and the God of Yaakov. I bid you all on the tongue of our forefathers, Shabbat Shalom Lakam.
Shabbat Shalom Lakam.
And I thank the Most High God even for my teacher, Moray Ben Israel, blessed be his memory. So I would ask y'all how y'all doing. But we did that this morning, right? So how's the day going? Okay. Learned a lot of things. You know, it's funny how this stuff goes, because I'm not lying. Everything that has been said today is in line with what I was thinking to teach about. And so I said I was coming down to visit the family, right? And of course, somebody was like, oh, well, if you're going to say a couple of words, I'm like, oh, sometimes it's okay. I've had to sit for years, so I know what it's like to sit down. And it's okay. And it's important to learn how to sit down and listen to others, because we're in a constant learning process. And other people make you realize things that you may have been getting away from. And so as I was thinking about it, what I wanted to teach about today is perception. You know, and it's a funny thing about perception. You could be right, you could be wrong. But there was a way that the Most High God wanted people to perceive us. Am I right or am I wrong?
Okay.
Right. You know, we're ending out Peckle Day. And we start talking about tent pins and curtains and gold and rings. And, you know, the curtain should have the cherubim sewn in the side. And we got an Ark of the Covenant. And the cherubim are covering the Ark of the Covenant. And inside the Ark of the Covenant, which we just spoke about this morning, what do we have? Got the tablets. And the important part of that is that the cherubim are covering or protecting what God sent to us by Moses for our lives. And then we look at the priest, and he's bearing the nation on his chest, right? That's what you spoke about this morning. All 12 tribes. And so we have a lot of this symbolism. So I stopped and I said, it's like, why does God want us to be seen like this? And so I pose a question to us. What is it that people see when they see you? I'm not talking about ignorant people. I'm talking about just up straight. When they see us, what do they see? Because there's a way God made people perceive us. Because we wouldn't serve Him. We have to understand that coming back out of captivity, waking up out of darkness, shaking the dust of the earth off of us. Clearly there's a part of the curse where we see in Isaiah 3 where the Most High God said he would uncover our women. Am I right or am I wrong? And he said he'll bear their secret parts. So clearly God wanted us to look a certain way. He wanted his temple to be viewed a certain way. He wanted his priests to be viewed a certain way. What about us? How many of us have heard the term, clothes don't make the man? Oh, clothes don't make the man. Clothes may not make the man, but it makes you something. Right? Like, you're not going to tell me you're going to walk in here, look any such way, and that automatically people are going to be thinking about God. But as an Israelite, you need to know, and somebody has to tell you, when people see you, they need to be thinking about God. Whether you like it or not. Oh, when I was little, they had this commercial, Charles Barkley, right? I'm not a role model. Listen, that's your way of saying, be like, listen, I'm not here for you to model me. Just, I'm going to do what I got to do. Don't do what I do. You be yourself and let me be me. Can we do that as Israelites?
No.
Never. God has an expectation of me and you. And sometimes we get away from that because in us coming back to God and us shaking the dust of the earth off of ourselves, we just were taught it's okay, just believe. And we had to evolve. We had to get to a point where we evolved. Because at first, people couldn't read. And when our people were finally allowed to learn how to read, we didn't want to read. And I don't know how that point got lost in the process, but somehow, some way, part of our culture in reading and wanting to know what's happening has been lost. And I'm going to get back to what I was saying in a minute, but, you know, it's amazing to me. Like, you see this up here? I walked in here. So I heard you talking this morning about the parts of the side of the brain that we use, right? Okay. And, you know, logically, it would stop and say, if I come into a place, I should at least have a general idea of what I'm looking at. And I stop and I say, my personal opinion, sometimes black people could care less. They'll be like, oh wow, that's a colorful thing up on the wall. Right. Without realizing what it is, ask the question, why is it there? Why do you have those names over there? Why is the other ones on the other side? Why is that there? Why do you have it on the top? Nobody's going to ask these questions. What language is that? It at least begs to ask the question, right? Right. You don't do it. And that's not the usual Hebrew we read, right? Okay. That's what they determine as the Paleo-Hebrew or the ancient Hebrew, depending on who you're speaking to and how much they feel they know about Hebrew. And so I stop and I say to us, it's how are we getting back to God? What do we perceive God as? And what do we perceive holiness as? Because God is not tangible. We'll never see God and live. It's not going to happen. But we can understand the characteristics of God and know the expectation associated with that. Righteousness. Holiness. Somehow we stop and we believe that righteousness and holiness doesn't come hand in hand.
Come on now.
How does that work? I'm righteous, but I'm not holy. What are we doing right here? And who's pushing this message? I'm saying that because there's an agenda. There are people who don't want to fulfill the meaning of being an Israelite in its totality, and therefore they teach you it's okay to be one without the other. And I'm here to tell you today that those people have taught you wrong. Whether it's in places like these or whether you hear it online. You know, fake news is real. Fake news didn't just start with the internet. It's just termed with the internet. It's termed with social media. Fake news is when people are telling you something is true and it's absolutely not true and they're pushing it off as truth. When you come to serve God, you have to be prepared to serve God in His totality. not in bits and pieces. And so when you have people who tell you it's okay to just believe, even though you break Torah, I'm here to tell you today that that's wrong. When you have people who stop and tell you, as long as you have God in your heart, you'll be accepted, I'm telling you that that's wrong. And why is it important for me to tell you that that's wrong? It's important for me to tell you that that's wrong because you come into places like this and you read where there were people who believed in God in their heart and had calf worship associated with the Most High God. And had Baal worship associated with the Most High God. And God killed them. So I'm not doing a service to myself or you by saying it's okay for you to just believe and that's okay, God will accept you. I'm not here for that. And so you will have people go and say, oh, you're too hard on the people. You know, there's a thing that we're missing, and that's strong leadership. We're lacking people who step up and say when somebody's right and when somebody's wrong. And I'll be the first one to say it. You'll have some people who will not agree with this statement in its totality. But sometimes when the people who are older than us are wrong, there has to be somebody step up and say, hey, listen, and there's a way of to go about doing this. Hey, listen, that's not correct. And you can't continue to tell people that. You know, there was a mistake that the generation before me made. It's like, just shut up and listen. You know what shut up and listen got us? Jesus. You know what shut up and listen got us? Never evolving as a people. Teaching the same wrong things over and over. Parroting what our parents taught us because we were afraid to change and make the next step in our evolution process as a people. Perception.
Talk about that.
Perception is, oh, my mother said it, so it must be right, and I'm going to argue with you about it in spite of factual information you bring before me.
Come on. Come on.
We can't be that people anymore. We can't continue to be that people. I had to learn as an individual how to stand up to my mother, but be respectful about it so she can understand where I was coming from and the mistakes that she was making. And when she seen that I matured in that process, I was able to go to her and explain certain things to her, and she goes, you know what? You're right. That's the part where we got to get to. We're missing a lot of communication as a people. We've lost along the way to learn how to talk to one another. And guess what? If my child can't come to me and talk to me about when I'm doing something wrong, or if I feel that I can't learn from my child, then guess what? I'm going to make the mistake, and I'm going to lead him into the mistakes, him or her, into the mistakes that I make. And so as we get into this chapter in a little while, we're going to see how God is saying, I'm going to take shepherds after my own heart. Meaning what? They were actually leaders that we had in place, that God didn't want. And we don't like to talk about that. Sometimes we don't like to admit to ourselves and be like, you know what, that Moray Yeftahk, he is so stubborn. He is so obstinate that when somebody comes and tries and tells him he has a white shirt on, he goes, no, actually I have on a white shirt with some orange in it. That's how stubborn he is. We get that ridiculous with what we do. And so part of perception is that in order for me to come to you in knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, in order for me to come to you, I have to perceive you have some knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Okay. And in order for me to talk to you about God, I gotta kind of see you with this book talking about God or something of that nature at some point or another. I sit down and I look at you and I go, oh no, he's a German. And he teaches about Catholicism. That's not what I see when I see you. But as Israelites, we like to take on an approach of like, listen, I can be whoever I am, however I want to be, and people will eventually pick up on who I am. It's not good. Perception. I take this book and I slam it on the floor. What do I think of this book?
Nothing.
It means nothing to me, when in very truth it's your life. Perception. We have to learn to be a people that bring knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, the facts and the truth of who the Most High God is, and blend it in with who we are, and the perception and how people perceive us and how we present ourselves, so that people will come and say, this is a wise and an understanding people. But how are we portrayed in media? Okay, I'll make it simple for y'all. How are women portrayed in media? I don't want to say it. Y'all know what it is. They like us. They like our women scantily clad, dancing, twerking, showing half their body, if not all their body. And you sit down and that's what sells, right? Say it's out there, you turn on the feed, you see sex sells, right? Said, and you get the idea that if you cover yourself, so I hear Israelite women say, if you cover yourself, you want me to be mother somebody. Fill in the blank. Oh, let me guess. My skirt has to be on the floor and I'm stepping on it. My top has to be way down here. And I stop and I ask the question, but what's wrong with modesty? What is the issue that we have with being modest and people saying that, hey, listen, that sister doesn't dress like that. That brother doesn't dress like that. How about this one? That brother doesn't talk like that. Are people afraid to say certain things around you? Are people afraid to bring certain topics up around you?
No.
That's how it should be.
That's right.
But it gets to a certain point that we stop and we look and hey, listen, I'm normal too. We can talk about all of this, however you want to talk about it. And God watches us. And we wonder why God won't save us, but we won't do the things necessary to ensure that God saves us. Because we haven't been taught what's important about God saving us. So, are you going to be my reader? Let's turn to Jeremiah, the 3rd chapter. Let's talk a little bit more about perception and how God relates to us. Because God has this thing, so he gives us physical things to explain the spiritual level. I'm with that. I'm with all of that. I sit down and I say, there's 3 levels to our being. Can I use this board?
Okay.
Hope y'all can read my handwriting. Us left-handed people. We use the other side of our brains. However, our penmanship may not speak to what we're thinking. So, 3 levels. Spiritual, and I'm spelling spiritual wrong, so we're not going to have the Moray looking bad up here, right?
Or
Yeah.
it's a little bit darker for you.
Gotcha. Spiritual, mental, physical. There's one word that goes after these 3 words. What do y'all think it is? I was almost sure my Isha was gonna yell it out because I was just talking to her about this. Like she gonna say it. Spiritual, mental, physical. One thing associated with all 3: health. In order for you to be complete, you must have spiritual health, mental health, physical health. Good spiritual health, mental health, and physical health. Or one will eventually affect the other. You don't got good mental health, you're going to eventually, if you're a smart person, pray to God about it. If you don't have good physical health, you're going to eventually pray to God about it. And if you don't got good spiritual health, you won't understand how to take care of your mental or your physical. All three work together, whether we realize it or not.
That's right.
Only question is what part in our life do we recognize these things? You know, I hear people talk about they don't want to pray to God because they feel that God doesn't answer their prayers. Well, I don't know how you can't want to pray to God when God is who created you, who knows your body better than you,
Okay.
who knows what's going on in your mind better than you. He created you. He created the scenarios that are happening in your life that actually make you think more about how you're doing things and how God is treating you. The only question is, do you believe that? Anxiety, depression, two separate ends of the spectrum, right? How did I become depressed? Or do you live in the fact that you are depressed? Why am I dealing with anxiety? Or do you live in the fact that every once in a while you deal with panic attacks and you deal with high anxiety? And so what do? We stop and we tell ourselves, there's something going on with me mentally, so physically I need to do something about this. What are you going to do? Pop a pill. Right? This pill is going to take me down, bring me back down from my anxiety. This pill is going to do this pill is going to do that. But in reality, something has happened in your life at some point or another that you need to resolve in your mind of how to get past it. And so when we speak about spirituality will allow you to stop, think, and believe. For you to eventually know, this is what God has done. These are the laws or the commandments that I broke. This is how God is testing me, and this is how I will get past it. Spirituality. Oh, let me speak on a more common term. Give it to God. We know that term, right? Oh, just give it to God. That's the spirituality aspect. At some point, you have to talk to God about this. And how do you talk to God about it? Through prayer. What do I pray about? You got 150 Psalms, but you don't know how to pray. How does that work? Exactly. Exactly. You can't recite not near one of them. You don't know who's in there, who's Asaph. This David wrote songs. I thought he was a warrior. I thought he was a king. But David was a spiritual man. And so I stop for us and I say, it's like, listen, at one point, we all have to stop and take a look at ourselves. Never be afraid to look at yourself, Israel. Because if you can't stop and look at yourself, you can't accept who God made you. And the reality is that we can't play both sides of the fence. We can't be blessed and cursed and think that we're going to live our lives walking in blessing and walking in the curse. We can't live our lives serving two different masters. Either we're going to serve our God or we're going to serve our captors. But it can't be both. We can't stop and believe that one day I want people to look at me one way, but the next day I want people to look at me another. It's not going to work. The way that this works is you live in who God made you and make people learn to accept you for who God made you. Stop and you tell your children, I don't care how many times you color your hair. I don't care how much makeup you put on your face. I don't care how many different type of clothes you try and put on. If you sit down and you try and dress like an Irishman, they're not going to think you're Irish. They're going to think you're a black man with Irish clothes on. If you dress Jewish and you put on the big hat and wear the long black coat and do all of that, they're going to stop and say, that's a black man with Jewish clothes on. So when do we get to the point as a people that we stop and we live in the light of the law, where we stop and we go, that's a black man that looks like an Israelite. Oh, that's how Israelites dress. And it's okay. You know why? Like, I dust my turban off on Saturday. Right? I find my fringes Friday evening. You know, my Bible, this text, is convenient for me when I'm trying to follow on a Torah service. But that up there, that's a little bit different. But it looks nice. It's a little bit different. We can't continue to be that people. And so I stop and I say for leadership that it's past the point of requesting certain things. There are certain things that God is obligating for us to do. And as a leader, which includes myself, I have to obligate people to do certain things and not worry about who's going to like me and who's not going to like me. Because guess what? You can please some of the people some of the time, but you can't do what? All the time. Everybody ain't gonna always like you. You give your kids everything, you think you're giving them everything that they want, and they still get upset.
Yes.
But again, you're like, my goodness. So I guess all that other stuff I gave to you meant nothing, right? It's not the case. It's just that they didn't get what they wanted at that time. Trust in God. But let's get into this book. Jeremiah, 3rd chapter.
Sefer Yirmiyahu, or Yeremiah, commonly called the book of Jeremiah, chapter 3, verse 1. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
It was said, if a man put away his wife, and she go from him, and become another man's, shall he return to her again? Shall not that land be greatly polluted? But you have played the harlot with many lovers, and will you yet return again to me? Says Yahweh.
So we understand is that, and don't sit back down because I'm going to let you go right now. We understand in Deuteronomy, he told us that if a man takes a wife and then he writes her a bill of divorce and she goes and she becomes another man's wife, can she come back to that man that gave her the original bill of divorce? No. That's it. She went, became somebody else's wife. Game's over. Said, and if he does take her, then the land becomes greatly polluted. More of that perception, right? God doesn't want the perception that it's okay to jump around and be with this one, this one, this one, and this one because it's pure. Like our relationship with God should be pure. We should only be serving one God. We shouldn't be associating other things with the Most High God because we are what? A monotheistic people. He's giving us the example here of the nation going and becoming another man's wife. He said, but thou hast played the harlot with many lovers. We have had other gods. And he asked a rhetorical question, and wouldest thou yet return to me? It reads,
Lift up your eyes to the high places, and see where you have not been lain with.
yeah, what God haven't we served? Come on.
On the highways have you sat for them, as the Arabian in the wilderness.
Oh, that's a harlot. Come on.
And you have polluted the land with your harlotries and with your wickedness.
Yeah. Now I want us to understand this. He's saying that you went and you waited for them. They didn't pursue you. You waited for them. You waited, and people who came and passed by, you were like, yeah, I'll do that. That's what we do. In our own families, we could find a Christian, an Israelite, a Muslim, a Buddhist, a 5%er, an Egyptologist. What else we got going on these days? You do all that, right? And then you got one, you go find the atheist is there. Atheist is there somewhere, and then you got another one that'll be like, well, I'm kind of part Israelite, I'm kind of part Muslim, but I just believe. Right? And where do we find this out at? Thanksgiving dinner. In Thanksgiving dinner, we're having this conversation. He's like, wait, what are we doing right now? That's what's happening here. And thou hast polluted the land with thy harlotries and with thy wickedness. What we're doing today, everybody doing what is right in their own eyes, God doesn't like that. Oh, you do this, but I do this, and learn to be tolerant of everything. God doesn't want that. I'm telling you something wrong if I'm telling you to be tolerant of everything. The reason why we're over here is because God could not tolerate us anymore. Something needed to switch. Something needed to change. Let's go.
Therefore the showers have been withheld,
Right?
and there has been no latter rain. And you did have a harlot's forehead. You did refuse to be ashamed.
So you're just gonna act like you're not being cursed right now. That's what you were talking about earlier, right? Two people get into an argument, and somebody come and be like, listen, y'all need to stop arguing, and what do they tell you? Oh, we're not arguing right now. Like, everybody in this place hears you two yelling, screaming at each other. Like, oh, no, we're not arguing. That's just how we talk.
Wow.
That's what we do. You know why we laugh? Because we've seen it.
Yeah.
We've seen it. You sit down and you're like, no, I'm telling you, I hear you from way over there, and I decided to walk over here to kind of tap you on the shoulder and be like, listen, you know, y'all need to keep this down, something, blah, blah, blah. Oh, you always, this is what they do to me. Oh, you always think somebody arguing. You need to just relax. You're arguing and I need to relax. This is what I need to understand right now. I'm telling you. Yeah, people, I mean, it's ignorant to the point where you have a man and his wife doing that. And so I say for us as a people, right? You know, perception. There's that thing such as discretion, right? If I'm arguing with my wife, I should say that for when we get inside of our house and talk behind closed doors. Not in front of the children. Not as soon as this door closed, I'm going to let it all out when me and her are talking. Then I can let go of my displeasure. Or, which happens mostly with me, she can let me know her displeasure. Happens. I don't know what you're smiling about. It's one of those things. And so we stop and we don't understand. It's like, well, how much more needs to happen to you? How much more does God need to break you down before you realize he's punishing us? Before we stop and we take it to heart and we're like, this can't be. There's no way that this makes sense. Collectively, probably collectively, could have millions of dollars worth of salary. Collectively. But there's a reason why we can't get together for all of us to stop and say, yes, we're going to buy something for us so that us and our children can be taken care of moving forward. And we know why. Like, listen, I'm supposed to sign off on this. And then you change your mind and you start doing whatever you want to do with the building that we bought for us. It becomes a problem. Trust. Not having trust in one another is a curse. We see it in our relationships, man to man. We see it in our relationships, man to woman. We see it in our relationships, woman to woman. That's why we can't have brotherhood. That's why we can't have sisterhood. Because we're afraid any minute somebody's going to change on me. Like, kidding me? I'm going to put this down. And that thief over there in the corner, again, that's why he's sitting over there by himself. You know? That's what we do. What's going on here? We make up, we vilify one another. Because that's what the white man told us to do. Ooh, wait, did I say white man? Oh my goodness. See, he's racist. So it's like, listen, it's time for us to build, it's time for us to grow. Somebody's making us look at each other in a way that we distrust one another. And we have to get to a point where we learn to try and trust one another. And so as we build and we grow, it's like, hey, listen, I want to listen to you. You want to be a teacher? Absolutely, be a teacher. But at least let me perceive that you have some form of knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. I never see you study. When you write horrible. You have no form of sentence structure. Come to find out, you didn't even graduate from high school. And now you want to come and try and tell me about not only what I should be doing with my money, but about how I should go about serving God. And then when I hear you read, you can't even read right. Oh, no, when we gonna build? When we gonna grow? At a certain point, somebody gotta start calling people out. Like, yo, bro, you need to take a break for a while. And after you get yourself together, we'll keep the spot for you, but you gotta prove it. Is there anything wrong with us proving ourselves to one another? No. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. We the only people I know, we tap people on the shoulder without any credentials. Sounds good. Sounds real good. It's nothing like so. We just not going to test anybody on what they know from Genesis to Deuteronomy before we send them up here and start speaking. Oh, let me guess, because it's my son. Because it's my son and I want him to be a leader, bring him up here. Well, guess what? If I love my son and I love the people that I serve, I would make sure that my son has the tools he needs to come up here and stand before his people. Right?
That's right.
And so, as we begin to build, grow, and evolve, we realize that it's not all about us just making leaders, but it's about us making good citizens, good community members. That we understand how to deal with one another and show true love. So, what it means to truly be a godly person, to pull each other's coattail, where I don't think you're telling me about what I'm doing wrong in order to make you look good, so you feel good about what you're telling me, but you're genuinely concerned about my spiritual direction in serving God. That's the part where we miss with our leaders. That's the part where we miss in being a people. That's the part where we see it was like where God has stopped saying the showers have been withheld. Like, so at what point do you think to change? What needs to be done to you? True question. What needs to be done to you to make you be a better Israelite? To make you be a better God-fearing individual? It reads.
Verse 4. Will you not from this time cry to me, my Father, you are the God of my youth.
The God of my youth. But you got to know God from your youth. Besides the concepts of understanding everything that you know about God, what is preventing you from telling your child to pray to God? You know what happens when you tell your child to pray to God? What's the first thing they say to you? I don't know how to pray. So what's the wise thing for you to do? Not only teach them, pray with them. Pray with them. You sit down and be like, how many men in here play basketball? Do you just get on the basketball court and somebody throw you a basketball and say, go play? No. They go out there, they show you what other people are doing, they teach you the rules of the game. What's happening here? What's the rules that we're playing with? What are we doing right now? How do we get better before God? I need you to understand the rules of the game. When you pray, you're going to start this off with a hallelujah. When you pray, you don't think to just ask God for something. Give thanks to God for everything that He's given to you. Oh, what do I give thanks for? Oh, I'm thankful for my toys. Like, well, how about being thankful for your parents that bought you the toys? Before we start doing all of that. I know you like it. I get it. But, I could be broke.
Okay.
I could be one of those parents that you sit down and you be like, I give you nothing because all my money goes to rent and bills. And then you won't be thanking God for those toys, right? So then you thank God for your parents and you thank God for the roof that you have over your head. And you thank God for parents that love you. Because the reality that we don't like to talk about is that not everybody that has a parent that loves them. Tough conversations, right? But it's something that we should have with our children. And so, as that goes on, what are we teaching them? Appreciation. And when you learn to appreciate what's around you, and you learn to appreciate the life that you have, then you can begin to appreciate outwardly, right? Now you can begin to appreciate the friends that you have. And when you begin to appreciate the friends that you have, guess what you begin to immediately appreciate? The friends you don't have. How many of us have been glad at one point in our life or another that God has taken people out of our lives?
Yes.
Oh, thank God. Good riddance. No love lost. I promise I won't talk about you to anybody else, despite the fact that you talk to everybody else about me. Oh, no problem. You speak on. Just, you stay over there. I'm here. We laugh because we know it's true.
Okay.
We know it's true. And guess what? It speaks to your level of maturity. That you stopped and you're like, I didn't know spiritual health. I didn't know really how to get rid of this person. But when God set up this scenario, I didn't know that God was setting up the scenario that way. But this is what allowed me to become a better person. Because now I'm at what with myself? Peace. It is. You see how all of this comes into play? It all comes back into play because that's what I need in my life. I need peace. All that other stuff, I'm telling y'all, I'm at this point in my life right now, I could care less. It's like, I want to be peaceful. I ain't really got time for these people. Whatever y'all want to argue about, whatever y'all want to do, y'all can go over there and argue, just don't bring me in it. And ain't the way it always goes, somebody tried to bring you into it? Like, don't pull me into that. Y'all do what y'all do. If y'all want to argue, just don't bring me into your argument. Well, Moses was a man who was there to teach people a certain thing that they didn't want to expect. And so, as we talk about the harlotries of the land, what the children of Israel in the wilderness didn't realize was that there were things that they were practicing before they got in the land that would pollute the land. The things that the children of Israel were practicing in the wilderness were the very things that the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Girgashites, the Hivites, the Hittites, and all those 7 nations that got kicked off the land were already practicing. And so Moses had to teach them what they were doing so they wouldn't get kicked off the land. That's what's happening here. Right now, in captivity. Your leaders are teaching you what you should and should not be doing. Here in this captivity, here in this wilderness, so that when we get into the land, we don't get kicked back off the land.
Okay.
Only problem with the children of Israel in the wilderness is that they didn't realize that. They were just like, nah, you're out here to kill us. All right? Physical assassination, spiritual assassination. You know, that's how people feel now. Oh, you're stopping me from living a normal life. And so I'm going to tell y'all what one of my teachers, Colin Levy Haggadah, used to say. You think I'm stopping you from being happy? Go be happy. See what it gets you. You can go out there, and something my mother told me, anything you want, anything out there that you think you want to find, it's out there for you. You'll find it. The only question is, at what cost? And so I say for us as a people, at what cost are we willing to turn our back on God. Anything you do that forfeits your life is never worth it.
Okay, that's right.
But it goes on the
That's
record.
right.
Verse 5. Will he bear a grudge forever? Will he keep it to the end? Behold, you have spoken and done evil things and has had your way.
Did we hear that? Did we hear that? Did that resonate with us? You had your way. We did this the way you wanted to do it. You know, a lot of times we don't like to blame ourselves. I say that last line. Behold, thou hast spoken, but has done evil things and has had your way. When are we going to try God? It reads.
Yahuwah said, also to me in the days of Yoshiyahu the king, have you seen that which faithless Yisrael has done?
Faithless, come on.
She has gone up upon every high mountain and under every green tree, and there has played the harp.
And so that we understand quickly, you know, the high places, that's what they speak of. That's where we went to do our offerings, right? That's where we went and the altar was there, and it wasn't bad at first because Abraham, we read about him going up into the mount and creating the altar, and we even see in the time of I'm not forgetting his name just quick. So what is that? Numbers 20-something chapter. Yeah, Bill. With Bill, you see that they went and they kept finding highest points of mountains to make altars and things of that nature, but God didn't want that anymore. And here we see, as we fast forward in history, we see he said, have you seen that which faithless Israel has done? She went up on every high mountain and under every leafy tree, and there played the harlot. Always serving other gods, always giving credit, always giving credence to something other than the Most High God for what has been placed in your life. God doesn't like that. He doesn't like that. God doesn't want anything coupled with him ever. He's gone on record far too many times for us to stop and believe that it's okay for us to associate foreign culture with the Most High God.
That's right.
It goes on to read.
As I said, after she has done all these things, she will return to me.
Statement.
But she did not return, and her treacherous sister Yehuda saw it.
Stop. But she returned not. And her treacherous sister Judah saw it. So now you've seen New Jack City. Seen New Jack City? So what's the famous line out of that movie? It's a couple, right? Famous line.
Cancel that lady.
He got one. Not that one though. That was classic, but no. That's not what it is. Am I my brother's keeper? It is. You sit down, just when you think you out of it, just when you like, listen. I say it, right? We taping? I don't care. Them niggas is crazy. That's what we say, right? I ain't messing with them. Them niggas is crazy. So now you be like, when you speak about them niggas, who you talking about? Your brother?
Yeah, right.
Your sister?
Come on.
God doesn't like that.
Come on.
God doesn't like when you see people going astray and you just let it be. If we don't take care of each other, who's gonna take care of us? Ain't nobody out there been taking care of us yet. Who sat down and told you who you were? Who let you know you was Israel?
Okay.
Who told you what your true name was? It's not them. They're calling you everything else but
That's right.
a child of the Most High God.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
And so as we build and as we grow, God, we can stop and we see that God said, and her treacherous sister Judah saw it. And why? Because even when we were in the land, For all you believers that, oh yeah, as soon as we go into the land of Israel, we're going to assume our righteous posture and all of our problems are going to mysteriously float away. The reality is that while we were in the land, we were still at war with one another. We still argued with one another. There still was the southern kingdom against the northern kingdom. This ain't a new story. We lived this script already. The problem was we couldn't figure it out while we were in the land. And when we left the land, the same thing happened. And so when God stops and he looks at us and says, so you'll actually watch your brother or your sister go down like that? I just want to let you know. When you think you're ready to give up on the nation, when you think that you're at the point where you stopped and you've said, oh, I've done my work, I don't owe anything more, I point to the scriptures. Your job is never done. As a parent, you never stop being a father. As a parent, you never stop being a mother. And guess what? As long as you have a father and a mother, you never stop being a child. There's always a job to do. Your parents took care of you, and eventually you'll take care of them. Your parents advised you, and if you become wise enough, one day you can even advise them. But the process never stops. It keeps rotating. The same way this world keeps rotating. The same way the moon keeps orbiting the earth. And the way the earth keeps orbiting the sun. It doesn't ever stop. It never changes. I don't know who put out that lesson or who gave the impression that eventually we retire from serving God and from being a nation, but it doesn't stop. You can't just go off into seclusion. Eliyahu, Elijah, the prophet, he thought it was him, all by himself. And I alone have been zealous for the Lord. And what did God tell him? Got 7,000 over here. And guess what? This was the funny thing about the irony of it all. He said, and this is going to be your replacement. And the king of Assyria, this is going to be his replacement. And the king of Israel, this is going to be his replacement. Why are you busy thinking you're irreplaceable? Just follow the lead of Moses. Moses did this until he died. And that's what you have to do. Even after his death was prescribed to him. Even after he found out he messed up, he continued to teach the people and do the job that God gave him. It reads.
And I saw when, for as much as faithless Israel had committed adultery, I had put her away and given her a bill of divorce, that her treacherous sister Yehuda
Fear not.
was not afraid, but went and played the harlot also. And it came to pass through the lightness of her harlotry that she defiled the land and committed adultery with stones and with wood. And yet for all this, her treacherous sister Yehuda has not returned to me with her whole heart, but in pretense, says
Say Yahweh, you turn to pretense. You act like you wanted to return to me. You act like that you like me. You act like you love me. You continue to play that game that all Israelites play. I'm wicked, but I ain't that wicked. I may do some things, but listen, that one right there, they don't even come to service. Be like, but you know better. You see how I'm dealing with them, and you're gonna act like it can't be you. That's what we do. That's how we serve God. We allow the wicked person to be the barometer, to be the litmus test of righteousness. Is that how that works? We let the wicked person be our gauge. If I'm standing next to them, I'm really wicked. But if I'm over here, I'm kind of wicked. Righteousness is over there. That's what we do. You sit down, you're looking at wickedness so long, you can't even realize righteousness is 3 steps behind you. Why? Because you refuse to turn. Don't see wickedness. Don't live that lifestyle. Don't allow them to gauge how right you'll be. It's hard for us because sometimes we don't like to admit to ourselves that we don't need to be around certain people. It's hard for us because it's hard for us to accept that we don't need to be around certain conversations. At a certain point, when are you going to stop and say to yourself, every time I'm around this sister, this is the type of conversation that I'm having. And it's not conducive to me being a righteous individual. Every time I'm around this brother, I find myself having this type of conversation, and it's not conducive to me being a righteous individual. You know why? Because we're afraid of what people might say about us. Oh, I guess you don't like me anymore because you don't come and talk to me like that anymore. And so I stopped and I said, it is very fair to give people warning about how they're dealing with you. It's very fair. Stop and tell them, like, hey, listen, in order for me and you to be friends, in order for us to talk about certain things, I don't find it funny laughing and joking about adultery. I just don't. And while it may make me chuckle initially, I don't like the feeling that I have later on knowing that God knows that I was laughing at that. So that's why I separate myself. Oh, I guess you want to be righteous.
Yes.
Yeah, right. Bravo! That's that moment of clarity, right? Be like the light bulb goes off. Be like, no, I'm not trying to be righteous. This beard, this turban, these clothes I'm wearing, no. I just want to be like a regular person in the street. Yes, all of that. You're like, bro, I'm telling you this for a reason. And guess what? I don't have to justify myself in trying to change. I can just change. And changing is a process. Changing is not overnight. So guess what? You know what people do, right? Oh, you don't want to talk to me, but you're friends with that person, and that person does X, Y, and Z. Yeah. All right. So I'm evolving in my process. As things come and as you serve God, the longer you serve God, you will see your circle will begin to change. If you're doing things right, your circle is going to begin to change. People are actually not going to want to come around you because they're going to know what they want to laugh and joke about and what they're going to want to do. People who can't serve in God. You know what the Friday night party's like? You used to go on a Friday night. Now you're like, no, I'm not going. You're like, oh, wait a second. Sorry to shame me. I guess that religion tells you you can't go out on Friday. Religion ain't never did nothing to you before. Until I told you I can't go out on Friday. You can't eat what? This is how it starts. You can't, what you mean you can't eat that? Nah, I don't eat that. Why? What's wrong with it? I don't eat from there. What do you mean you don't eat from there? This is what happens. And you know the horrible part? We don't have people that would stop, and when we see people going astray, go and be like, yo, that's not you, bro. That's not you, sis. That's not how this works. We gotta do better. I sit down and say, like, listen, if the FDA comes along and says, this has been deemed, McDonald's has been deemed a danger to your health, you watch how the stock fall. Everybody come and be like, oh, I was always wondering about them burgers. You know, I always had the kind of idea, that last Big Mac I had, it tasted kind of tainted. This is what we do. This is what we do. You're like, and y'all know I keep it 100. Oh, let me guess. The white man had to tell you it, and now you start thinking twice. But when a brother comes and tells you, then it's like, oh, well, who told him that? and what makes them think that and all that other stuff. We're doing things backwards. Let's get through this. Come on. What verse mean?
Verse 11. And Yahuwah said to me, faithless Yisrael has proved herself more just than treacherous Yehuda.
Now I want y'all to think of the irony of this. The person who just sat on the side and acted like they were serving God, God just said they were more righteous than the person who just straight up did it. Think about that. When you think you're in the clear and you're like, well, that's just them and just that and another. Here, we stop and we see God is saying that backsliding, calls them straight up, backsliding Israel has proved herself more righteous than her treacherous sister, Judah. It reads,
Go and proclaim these words toward the north, and say, return, you faithless Yisrael, says Yahuwah, and I will not frown upon you. For I am
merciful,
says Yahuwah, and I will not bear a grudge forever.
But what?
Forever.
Come on.
Only acknowledge
Right?
your iniquity
Prescription.
that you have transgressed against Yahuwah your Elohim.
Prescription.
That's right.
Come on.
And have scattered your ways to the stranger.
Stay right there. I know we're in the middle of the verse. What does that mean to you? And has scattered your ways. What does that mean to you? When you scatter your ways, that means I do a little bit of what you do. I do a little bit of what you do. You do, and you do, and you do. And then guess what? By tomorrow, I'm going to choose y'all 5 next. And then the next day, I'm going to choose you 4. And then, you know what? Friday's your day. You're it. That's what we do. We sit down, you like unstable waters, right? There's nothing consistent about what you do. We can't pick a side to save our lives, literally. We do things in a way that is so haphazard, and we look to other people for guidance so much, and we never look to God for salvation. It's amazing. And so when he says, go and proclaim these words, return, when he's saying return, he's talking about our ways.
Come on.
When we return to God, we have to return to the righteous way. The only question is, do we want to be righteous? And guess what? There's nothing wrong with itemizing what righteousness is. There's nothing wrong with stopping saying modesty is a part of righteousness. There's nothing wrong with saying the way we think collectively needs to change. You know what I tell people? It's like, 'cause there's some conversations we're afraid to have. You know, wickedness jumps into all of our minds. We act like we're supposed to stay up here and be like, here I am perfect, and I never have a wicked thought ever. And y'all should know this, attain my status one day. It's not the reality.
Yeah, that's right.
The reality is that a wicked thought can jump into my mind, and I need to stop and say to myself, that's wicked. Don't laugh at that. Don't entertain that thought any longer, because God doesn't like that. And that's okay. That is quite all right. And you'll have people who want to make themselves look better, and they'll be like, oh, see, those Israelites, they do think wicked thoughts. That's how God created us. God created us with the idea to understand right and wrong so that we can understand the path to choose. And it's all right. When you covet, do not believe for 1 second you cannot have, in the words of my teacher, Moray Mishael, crimes of the mind.
Come on.
Your very thoughts can lead you into iniquity. I tell brothers all the time, like, brothers, do not fool yourself. Staring for entirely too long can get you in trouble. Those who understand know exactly what I'm talking about.
Just put your head in the scriptures.
You know what they say? Pretty and brown, make you put your Bible down. Don't stand too long. Just stop and like, listen, it's time to move on. Time to get out of here. A conversation can sometimes go too far. Sometimes it's okay, listen, it's okay to stop a conversation abruptly and just walk away. This ain't gonna work right now. I see where this is going. It's okay. And brothers, teach your sons. Sisters, teach your daughters. Sisters, teach your sons. Brothers, teach your daughters. You gotta let them know what to look out for. I avoided the pitfall, but I watch you go right into it. Does that make sense?
Go ahead.
And so that's the part about being each other's keeper, right? Me being my brother's keeper is not to sit down and be like treacherous Judah and watch Israel go into her backsliding ways and just watch it happen and be glad for it. But open rebuke is better than what?
Secret love.
So it goes. I don't need your secret love. I don't want you disrespecting me along the way. But it's okay to pull my coattail. I'm approachable. You can talk to me. And guess what? I might not like it. Most people don't like to be told they're sinners. But if I'm a sinner and don't expect me to come to you and go, you know what? You're right, I'm a sinner. I may just take the information and go, okay, I've heard you. That's how it works, right? You'll more than likely see my actions change.
That's right. That's right.
You'll see me not be involved in that anymore. But it's okay to deal with things in a certain way because guess what? Somebody, I got to trust somebody. Somebody I got to trust. I know who I go to. I know who I talk to about certain things, who I ask things about certain things, and that's part of that perception. You're like, I'm supposed to come and ask you advice on Torah, and you don't know anything about Torah. That's what our children do. Our children are having problems with us as parents, and they don't know how to come and approach us about certain things. My daughter doesn't know how to come and tell me that she's pregnant, and that she doesn't know who the father is. And of course I'm going to be upset. But now who does she go and talk to about it? Somebody who has no concept of Torah. And what do they tell her to do? Oh, go and get an abortion. He'll never know. And then she gets an abortion. And then she can't have any more children after her abortion because they've obliterated her insides. And then now later on, she's dealing with bouts of depression because she has to come to the realization that she can't have any children, and she thinks it's because of her abortion. Wow. When if you just came and you talked to me, or talked to somebody who you can trust about what's going on, it may have been something that we can work around it. Right?
Okay.
This is what we deal with. So I'm saying about these things that, well, I am in no way, shape, or form saying, listen, go out there and get pregnant and just go talk to your father about it. But I'm just telling you as a father, listen, there's no two ways about it. It's going to be a problem.
Okay.
But it may not be worth you sacrificing your life over. And so we stop and we talk about it like, hey, listen, there have been plenty of us who thought, yeah, we're just going to have sex and nobody's going to get pregnant. And how many times has that worked out right? Not often. So don't get caught out there. That's what we do. That's what we have to do.
That's right.
Sit down and tell our sons, you're like, listen, oh, let me guess. You're going to sit down and you're going to have all your wives and all your concubines out there because you're a young Israelite man. And then when you're sitting in court for 3 separate child support orders, and you're asking to come back and live with me,
That's right.
you think it's going to be okay. And then let me guess, you're going to be on Facebook, cursing every woman out. Oh, why are they using the system against me? The child support system is the devil. You'd be like, first of all, you ain't got a job. So child support is for people like you. And you need to hear that. Because if you got 3 children by 3 different women and you ain't got a job, something's wrong with that, brother. And I'm talking as a brother. It just doesn't work like that. And so, if we stop letting other people teach our children, and we learn to teach our children ourselves, and that people have a righteous perception of you, guess what? Ain't gonna be no things, because guess what? Come, be like, listen, I'm trying to talk to your daughter. And that's the righteousness of it, right? And the righteousness is for you to come and say, hey, listen, bro, I really like you, but I think you need to work on that job situation. And you ain't got to be rich, but you got to be doing something. And then we can get there. And don't look at people who have done it, who didn't have a job, and they figured it out along the way to do it. Like, that's not what God wanted. They worked past it, but you don't know the struggle that they went through along the way. And that's how we build. That's how we grow. So stop and I say, it's each one teach one. If you're an imam, you should be able to come to me and say, hey, listen, I need to talk to you a second. As a leader, this is what you're doing wrong. Not for me to stop and be like, I said shalom to you. Now you want to come and talk to me? That's what we do. Father figure, mother figure, those who it's a family atmosphere. And when we begin to get to that family atmosphere again, and that's what God is telling us as we stop, and he's like, return unto me, even though we've served other gods, learn to come and serve God once again. Learn how to be brothers and sisters once again. Learn how to be a family once again. It reads.
Verse 13. Only acknowledge your iniquity.
Right?
That you have transgressed against Yahweh your Elohim, and has scattered your ways to the strangers under every green tree. And you have not obeyed my voice, says Yahweh. Turn, O faithless children, says Yahweh, for I have taken you to myself. And I will take you, one
of a city,
and two
of a family,
and I will bring you
to Zion. Last verse.
And I will give you shepherds according to my
heart, right?
Who shall feed you with knowledge and understanding.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Can we hear that? Take you one of the city, two from a family. He was already telling us, he's like, I'm going to break this whole thing up. I'm going to bring you back, but I'm going to break this up. Because I'm going to have, you have a brother over there, and a brother over there, and though you may not live in the same city, though y'all may not be around each other, I'm going to teach y'all how to live with one another as true brothers and true sisters. I'm going to give you shepherds according to my heart. You don't like it, but it's true. I'm going to give you people that you never knew that somebody could care for you like that, just off the fact that they like you. It's like, as a person, like, I really like this brother. I'm like, yo, listen, I'm going to make sure he eats. I'm going to make sure he's taken care of. I'm going to introduce him to this person so he can get a job while he's here, so we can come and do what? Serve God together. That's the paramount part of all of this, right?
That's right.
We're going to learn how to serve God together, and we're going to be peaceful. It's not going to be a thing like, you know what we're going to do? We're going to stop this, everybody arguing with one another. I'm going to start serving God with people. Hear this here. I'm going to start serving God with people that don't want to argue every week. That have a true spirit of cooperation. Because every time that I sit down with you, it's a back and forth situation. And we don't need that. And so that's that part that I said about being strong enough to call a spade and call people out. Because there's eventually a point in your life where you got to stop and you got to say to somebody, like, hey, listen, I understand that we've been friends for these amount of years and all these different things have been going on, but this is not working the way it should be working. And I love you, but our interaction is not good. So it's time to split. And guess what's going to happen? You know what happens when you start giving people ultimatums? You know what happens when you start giving people the either or? You see true colors.
Right.
Every time. Either they're gonna come and they're gonna stop and they're gonna be like, no, it doesn't need to be like this. I'm gonna change something or we're gonna do things differently. Or they're gonna stop and they're gonna go, you know what, you're right. And you'll realize, you'll be like, this was probably best for all parties involved. Abraham and Lot. So then, not that Abraham didn't love Lot. Lot got himself in trouble and he came there to help him. But Abraham could no longer live and coexist with Lot because Lot was into doing his own thing at a certain point. My point is our common denominator is the Most High God. Let's serve God the way He intended for us to serve Him. Let's give the glory that's due unto His name. And let's make sure that we understand how to live amongst one another as a people because God won't want it any other way. Hoping and praying that you got something out of what I said. And that the Most High God found His good spoken for His people. And that the Lord was one of our forefathers. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.